Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Matt W.O. Nerona here, and we are live on the Advance Impact Legacy Show. I am super pumped today because we have a very, very special guest here today with us, a very dear friend of mine, but much more than that, one of the world's greatest authorities in transcending difficult and challenging cultural upbringings which can limit a person from reaching their full potential. This incredible coach, author, trainer, social impactor, and global influencer has written a world-class, in my opinion, a world-class book, Rich Man's Poor Daughter, which is a brief autobiography of her earlier years and some of the experiences and discoveries she went through on her journey, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, if you buy this book, you will not put it down. I've read it 3 times myself. It sits on my shelf downstairs in my office. And honestly speaking, only my best books come down here. So, it's here with me, okay? And we do have good news. She's releasing a new version, which is going to be a little bit more updated because since releasing this book, she has influenced thousands, if not tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people on the planet, including organizations and executives, and many, many, many more indeed. Very honored to introduce the wonderful and the one and only Ritu Sharma. I'm going to add Ritu into the stream. Hi Ritu, how are you?
Hey Matt, I'm great. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Great to see you. Saturday, Carl. Have to greet you properly.
Wonderful. Hi.
Really, really good to see you. You look amazing, by the way. So absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for giving some of your precious time today so that we can, inspire the viewers through your story, through your journey, through your learnings, and also the learnings of many of your, students, delegates, disciples, etc., around the world who are following, your story and your incredible work of social impact all around the world. What I would like to do to begin with is just to get a sense for the viewers who you are, where you're from, some of those early formative kind of experiences that may have shaped the Ritu Sharma that we all see today. So where are you from? Where did it start? Can you tell us sort of a little bit about that, Ritu? That would be absolutely fantastic.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here, Matt. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you. I'm really, truly honored to be here with you today. So, hey guys, I'm Ritu Sharma, and I am a Women Empowerment Ambassador, and that's what I eat, breathe, drink, live on. My story started from the very time of my birth. I was born in a well-resourceful family in Amritsar, in India. So it started because, like many other girls of my times back home then, gender-based discrimination was nothing new, nothing different. It was very much a fabric of life of people. So whatever I went through in terms of, gender-based discrimination, that girls should only do certain things and they're not allowed to be certain other things. We were taught to talk in a certain manner, sit in a certain manner, approach people in a certain manner, even dream and think in a certain manner. And yes, I'm truly and very grateful to my father, who was a wonderful, powerful man himself, self-made millionaire. And he gave me the best gift any parent can give a child. He gave me the gift of education. But ironically, due to the cultural structures that he was in and was the programming that we all had at the time, I was given a mind, but I was not allowed to use that mind. Okay. Now, anybody who's been there, Matt, would know that it's absolutely frustrating and soul-shattering that you have a mind, you can think for yourself, but you're not allowed to even express that. You're not allowed to do things that your soul wants you to do. So I went through a series of events where, I faced that kind of thing, and I experienced very deep pain, emotional and spiritual pain, trauma, where I had to break things down because I was not adjusting well to the circumstances, the surroundings I was in, the society I was a part of.
Yeah.
And therefore, I was labeled a problem child. Although I was, I'd like to think back and I look back, and I think I was actually a gifted and talented child.
Yeah.
I excelled in my academics. I was the best actress in the university. I was a university topper, but I was labeled a problem child because I asked too many questions. I was one of those annoying little girls who would not shut up and kept on asking questions. And obviously, the authoritative people, they don't like it. And they don't like it because they don't like you. They don't like it because they don't have an answer themselves. So
Right.
I come from a long journey of that kind of things where I had lots of questions. I was asking them very openly, very clearly, but I was not getting answers. And as a little girl, therefore, I was really, truly lost.
Yeah.
And then I came to the UK, settled here. I was a teacher, qualified teacher. I went into teaching science at a secondary school, taught there for 9 years, then switched to primary. Continued on my journey of that spiritual and emotional pain through DV, through divorce, homelessness with two little children. And then the penny dropped, Matt, when I realized that it's not just, because for up till that point, I was thinking I'm exclusive to this kind of a situation.
Oh, really? That's really interesting, because a lot of us go through our own experiences.
Absolutely.
And we think they're exclusive to us. And then you meet someone else that's like had a version of what you've gone through, and you think, okay, I can really relate to that. And it was weird because I met a friend yesterday in Milton Keynes that I haven't seen for a long time, really. Okay. And we were just talking, and some things that like he's gone through, I'm thinking, yeah, I kind of relate to that as well. And it's weird because sometimes we kind of think, okay, we're the only ones.
Absolutely. When you're stuck in your own little bubble and you think, oh, everybody else is happy. It's only me. I'm the doomed one. Oh, everybody else is fine. It's only my destiny not doing me justice. And then when I came out of my own bubble, I realized it was not just me. Thousands of women go through similar stuff. I'd say millions. I'd say millions, not even thousands. And then, I further stepped out of my bubble and realized it's not exclusive to even Asian women.
No.
It's women in general. And then I stepped out of my bubble a bit further, Matt, and I realized it's not just even women. Even men go through, all this stuff. And we are programmed in a way where men have to portray themselves in a certain manner. Therefore, the abuse, either way.
A beard helps, Ritu. Man, a beard helps. That's a joke, by the way.
That is where I started the work I do. And I realized that this is needed. Yes, loads of other people are doing it, which is great to see. But I think it will take a few centuries before we actually made the playground leveled for everybody to come in.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point that you raise about lots of other people doing it. But I think in terms of creating huge global impact, we often buy into this kind of thing of one person's going to come with one message and they're going to create all this change. And the reality is that most of the time, you do get the odd one person that comes, the Martin Luther Kings and the Mandelas and so forth. But most of the time, in my experience, what I see, it's a kaleidoscope of lots of people all moving with the same intention, maybe not even working together, but creating this big movement that causes, global change. And I think that's really important. Absolutely. And I think you have a very special, what I see of you anyway, I think you have a very special place to play within that, which I think is and we'll talk a little bit more about as we carry on, but I think that's very, very important. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you feel that you were born, because I was having a conversation with a friend a few days ago, and we were talking about purpose and destiny, right? And some people take that to the extreme, which is absolutely cool. And it's like everything's written and you can't change anything, so don't worry about anything. And other people are like, yes, but you've got some power, so you can kind of influence that. And then there's this whole spectrum. And we're not here to judge any of those models of the world, right? But do you feel, Ritu, that since you started this like social impact work that you're doing, you know, it's women's ambassadors work that you're doing, do you feel you have a lot of satisfaction from that? And do you feel that you've aligned with your purpose on planet Earth?
That's such a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that, Matt. This actually is a great question. Absolutely.
You
I
do?
think
Okay.
most of my happiness comes from the work I do. And there are other sources of, happiness in my life. I've got kids, I've got family,
Yeah.
I've got wonderful friends. But the true and the most deepest kind of happiness that I have achieved is through the service that I've started giving.
Right.
And I truly believe that each one of us have, something within us, and not necessarily that you need to be on a world stage and you need to be a leader in terms of, social leader or whatever. You can be a leader within the capacity you're in. You're a mother and you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You're a father and you're a leader. You're a friend and you're a leader.
Right.
And by leader, we don't mean taking the authority. We mean leading the change,
Yes.
positive impact that you're capable of making. And each one of us, we are all capable of doing that. And I think once you understand, the alignment that needs to happen, and once you are on the track, your soul would know. You would know, right? You don't need confirmation from outside. The whole world can go against you. But you will know within you that you're on the right path, because the kind of satisfaction and grounding you'll get out of it, there is no parallel to that.
Yes. Got to say, with your glasses on, you do look very much like a teacher today.
Thank you.
Right, headmistress sort of, kind of thing. But that is cool. That is very, very cool. I had a guest on a few weeks ago, and he had a brand new pair of glasses on, and he was like, "This is my authority look." So I'm thinking, do I need to get a pair of clear specs? One thing I wanted to also sort of kind of discuss with you, because it's more of a discussion, right? I coach a lot of business owners, as you know, mainly small business owners, entrepreneurs, etc. And they often get stuck in the paradigm of their business. So they know how to run their business, they're making money, they have the ups and downs that everyone does, they have the curveballs, they have things like pandemics come along and shut the shop for a while. But, they often get stuck in the bubble of just doing the business. And they've got some money and they've got, the business working. And then they feel this incredible, like, black hole of unsatisfaction. And then I say to them, what are you doing outside of yourself? What are you doing that's bigger than you? What are you doing that's not about money? What are you doing to create impact on planet Earth? And they go, not a lot, actually. I give a bit of money to the Red Cross every month. And I'm going, okay, that's cool. But what are you doing? And, they start doing stuff like feeding the homeless, or they start maybe writing the book that's going to inspire people, or they start just mentoring kids, or just doing something to give back. And suddenly they find lessons within that that they can put back into the business. And suddenly they're happier. The business starts flourishing. This whole new world of opportunity kind of opens up. And I know you're also a business person in your own right. So I know you've got a couple of businesses. And I know you have that entrepreneurial bug within you that I'm always going to push a little bit, as you know. And do you find that has really helped with that as well, Ritu? And do you see
you actually put it? Yeah, you've actually said it in your own words, Matt, and that's the best bit. Do something that's greater than you. Try and serve something that's bigger than yourself. And even if you're not clear about what exactly is your purpose, do something you enjoy doing, which will serve others.
Yeah.
And once you are bent on that, you get so much clarity about yourself, which leads you into your purpose. And once you're into your purpose, once you're actually working according to your purpose, there is no stopping you. There is no end to the growth you meet. Personally, professionally, financially as well, Matt. I mean, I very clearly remember when, we first met a few years ago. And I mean, I'm sure you can't recognize me as the same person, because I look in the mirror and I can't recognize myself as the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, only like 4 or 5 years ago, I was a totally different person. And I think my abundance of finance, happiness, whatever, came through the fact that I found out what I was about, what my life was supposed to be around,
Right.
what am I meant to do while I'm here. It's money is a necessity. It's great. We all need that.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurship is something I absolutely, vouch for. And that's what I'm trying to educate my kids around as well. Entrepreneurship
Yes.
is great. And I think for women especially, I'm being gender biased here myself, but
No,
I
no,
think
no.
for
I mean,
women,
I think we
women
can do
especially
that.
because,
Okay, we can do that.
sorry.
We can do that. Okay.
Thank you. Because, with women especially, yeah, we are nurturers. And yes, I'm not saying all women do that and only women do that, but majority of women are moms and they would want to look after their children and have
Yes.
their work around their kids' needs, etc. So entrepreneurship kind of fits in really well.
Yeah.
I found it later, in my life, in when I hit my 40th. That's when I actually realized, I loved my teaching job and absolutely was in love with the time I spent with the children. But then
Yeah.
I found something even better that spoke directly to me, and that would fit into what I actually wanted to create and have. And I totally agree with you, Matt, when you say that when you put yourself forward to do something which is bigger than you, because when you step out, you help one person, and
Yeah.
then through that you realize, through that one experience, you realize, yes, you've done your little part, but
Mm-hmm.
the equation is way bigger than what one person can ever do.
Exactly. Exactly. And from a spiritual point of view, and again, do feel free to disagree with me because we like to discuss, right? But from a spiritual point of view, I think once we start living a life above just us and our immediate family needs, wants, etc., you start to open up, the consciousness to a much bigger spectrum that wasn't in plain view before, and then things start to move in the right direction in ways that you presently can't even understand. So it's like a domino effect,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It's magic to watch, and really take my hat off to you, Ritu. For standing in that space, for growing in that space. And I love the fact that you said to me, I can't remember exactly when we met, but I know the day we met, you were about to buy a dog. So I don't know how many
That's
years ago that was. It's maybe 4 years ago or something like that. I don't know.
2017, that was.
Okay, so yeah, 2017. Okay, so about 4 years ago, possibly. I remember you were very excited because you were getting this dog at the weekend, and then but it would be really sad if I met you 4 years from the first meeting, and you were the same person with the same concerns, the same beliefs, the same strategies,
Yeah.
the same everything. That would be pretty sad, right? And I think all of us are constantly, but are on this journey of development, but are on this journey of, finding and discovering our potential. I think, we're all sort of constantly morphing into new places of being, which is really exceptional. So hats off to you for doing that. I would also say that it's not an easy journey. Change is, as one of my ex-bosses would say, change is bloody hard. So do you find change easy, or it can be painful, right?
It is painful. It's not a matter of it can be, it is painful, Matt. But you know what? Like many people, I was very resistant to change. I used to fight it, and I always used to say, I don't like change. I don't
Yeah.
like change, right? And the universe had a plan. So the
Mm-hmm.
universe was like, there's no way avoiding that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to go through, in these 5 years, 4 or 5 years of the development that I've gone through,
Mm-hmm.
there has been so much change that has happened. That there's change that's happened at family level, at financial level, at mental, spiritual, emotional level, social level. And there's so many things that I've gone through that if I was not open to change, it would
Yeah.
be a huge mess.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way, but I'm still glad that I did learn that change is unavoidable and that change is the only constant, as we hear,
Yes.
because it's going to happen. And there's no such thing as imperfection or perfection, because once you're perfect, if you start thinking you're perfect, there's no end to becoming better,
Slippery
right?
slope. Right? Yeah.
Right. And I absolutely love what you said. When you first started saying about spiritual, how we develop spiritually when
Mhm.
we find ourselves. And it's almost as if you find yourself to be able to lose yourself again,
Yes.
and only to rediscover yourself at a different level once you do that the
Yeah.
next time. And it's like a repetitive
Yeah.
cycle, which is great. It's fun. Once you get used to it, once you know what to kind of expect but not expect, it's
Yes.
so much fun and it's so much learning. I look back and I mean, I am baffled at times with who I was. And Matt, you have had a huge contribution to make.
Mhm.
You have made a very positive impact on my journey, in all honesty. And something that nobody had dared to tell me how it was,
Yeah.
you said it to me in black and white, and you showed me the mirror almost. And I
Mhm.
was not waking up to the next level because of that one, level that I was stuck at.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fast forwarded from there because I became okay with change. I'm absolutely fine with change now. I actually look forward to change now. What's next? What can I do
Yeah.
better now? How can I change myself for better now?
And I love that because I think, I come from an NLP background in terms of most of the structure of our coaching. I mean, we've done a lot of coaching, but we really hold to that sort of NLP
Mhm.
structure because it is very structured and it is the technical side of coaching, the programming. So, and modeling is a great thing in NLP. I mean, NLP really is all about modeling and it's about modeling success. And if you look at all of the spiritual teachers, they wanted their disciples to model them, so that's kind of how I resonate with that, right?
Mhm.
But if you look at modeling, I think that's what world-class people do, is they have this ability to be resilient enough to go through change
Yeah.
and change and change because the universe is changing, the universe is growing, it's expanding, and so we are in alignment with that, which I think is really, really important. Now I do want to get on to a rather sad topic, if we may. Okay, but I think it's important, and I think there's a lot of different types of people will be watching this, and I think we can bring some value by maybe having this discussion. But at the moment in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in America and Europe, we're finding that there's a lot of violence happening against women. So we had a young teacher, a Muslim lady in London, who was sadly, murdered brutally, yeah, for no reason, by a random guy. Okay, we had a case where a policeman, a rogue policeman, had actually murdered a woman,
Yeah.
taken her out of London and murdered her. And we're having, incidents of domestic violence. Now, I do know domestic violence does go both ways. I've
Yeah.
got male friends that have suffered from it, but I think most people would hold the opinion, and I'm no expert here, most people would hold the opinion that 80, 90% of it is male to female.
Yeah.
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 And I'm not belittling any men that have suffered from domestic violence,
Absolutely.
etc. But I think most people would generally hold to the fact that probably 80% or more is male to female. And I think it's got worse. The general consensus is it's got worse during the pandemic and the lockdowns. What do you want to say about that? Because I think there's guys here that are not doing domestic violence or anything like that, but need to kind of understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think there's women also that maybe could benefit from kind of listening to your take, being I hope you don't mind me saying this, but being a survivor of that kind of paradigm, coming through that and then influencing other women. So, what would you say about this really horrible, sad phenomena that we're seeing in the Western world, right?
Yeah. It is horrible. It is absolutely disgusting, disgraceful behavior. Why does a man feel okay, groping a woman? Why does a man feel secure kidnapping and raping a woman? Why does a man feel the need to?
Can I just say one thing, Ritu? Because I come from a warrior martial arts background, and they're not men. They're a disgrace to men. And if we
I
had,
absolutely,
what we would do to them if we had the legal right. we would draw the sword. They're not men. They're not men.
Yeah,
But
but you know what? The thing is, Matt, I don't blame men for this behavior.
exactly, yeah,
I would not say it's a man thing. It's not a man thing. You know, when people say men will be men,
yeah,
I totally despise that. I totally, absolutely despise that. When you say stuff like this, you're making it okay for somebody to abuse somebody else. And that's not okay. I
hmm,
don't blame men for this. One, not all men are like this.
no, no, of course
And
not.
those who are, they have been exposed to circumstances, upbringing, programming,
Yeah,
conditioning that tells them that it's okay to be like this,
hmm,
right? And yes, I'm not at all bothered that you brought up that I am a DV survivor. I went through a
yeah,
marriage that lasted for 11 years, and I had known that guy 4 years before that. Uh, but things were not pleasant for a very, very long time. And being conditioned the way I was conditioned and brought up in a very conservative family in
yeah,
India, I used to believe it was normal. Like thousands of other women believe it's normal because we're made to believe it's normal to be treated like that. And
yeah,
men are made to believe that it's normal to be like this with women. You don't have to
yeah,
respect them, you don't have to look after them. They're there to provide for you at household and bring children up. I have always been a working woman, so it's not that I was financially dependent upon someone.
yeah,
I was still not given the respect that I deserved, just as a wife, just as a human being. Forget,
hmm,
a financial support. Okay. And I totally believe that when behavior like this pops up, it's the result of conditioning that that person, that particular individual has been exposed to. Same goes with domestic violence, same goes with raping. People who rape women, they objectify women. They don't see them as human beings, they don't see them as a person. They see them as an object, a sexual object. And that's a shame, really. That's a very low level thinking, if anything.
yeah,
And I think the responsibility that lies on anyone who understands better, be it a man or a woman, to create the change, to contribute towards the wave of change. So let's say I have understood it and I have been able to come forward and remove the guilt and the shame and the trauma as much as I have been able to do that, Matt, because in all honesty, I'm not going to claim I'm 100% over it, right? I rarely now get moments where I'll still have a flashback. It's rare, but it happens. And I think it's okay. It's the human element. It's fine to feel like that as well. But you can only move forward once you start understanding that this is not the person's personal thing that he's done to you. It's a result of years and years of conditioning.
yeah.
When he was a little boy, he was told, oh, be a macho, never, speak to girls in a certain tone, be dominating.
See, I don't know. I think there's a part of that, Ritu, but I think, I mean, again, it's a really complex subject. I think there are some people that are just evil. They're not necessarily born that way, but they choose that dark path. And if you study some of these like people that do these horrendous crimes, right? Their parents were really good people. They had a good family upbringing. Everything was there, but somehow they just went
Hmm.
on a different route, right? So I think there's that side of it as well.
There
And
is.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but if you study some of these serial killers, and I studied psychology way back when,
Mhm.
and we had to like look at some of these cases, and it was shocking. Some of the behavior, yes, some of them had come from very abusive backgrounds and stuff, and of course that's never really an excuse,
Yeah.
but it does give an understanding into the path that they've taken. But then you get others that have just like had a very good upbringing and have just chosen this very dark, evil path.
Yeah. Yeah. At
And
the end of the day, sorry to cut you there. At
no,
the
no,
end
no,
of
please.
the day, Matt, personal responsibility lies with the person.
Yes.
No matter what your upbringing is, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you were exposed to or conditioned to do or believe,
Mm-hmm.
it is eventually a person's individual responsibility to
Yeah.
find themselves and find their
Mhm.
own personal truth and apply that
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The world could be all saying the one thing, and if it doesn't speak to you, you don't have to submit to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, we have these problems in India as well. I mean, Delhi is a hot center for a lot of this stuff. And some of those people are from slums, and some of those people are politicians' sons. So, you know, there's a whole spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the solution. What can us men do? Because most guys are not really thinking about this stuff. You know, we don't do this stuff. We get on with our life. I get in the car, I'll go out. It might be dark. There might be a woman at the cash point. I'm not really thinking she might be intimidated by the big guy standing behind her. I'm just waiting to get my 300 quid out, right? So what are some practical things that us guys can do to make, say, just take the UK, for example, to make women feel safer? Or am I going at this the wrong way? What are some practical stuff?
Like what you've said around, you know, when you're standing behind a woman who's at the cash point, yeah, you know, it's just body language. It's just respectable difference, body language, yeah, you know, just that. Because some guys, you must have noticed, Matt, you know, they are like stiff as if, you know, they've got a iron rod in their spine or something. And they want to look like that. They want to look dominating.
And then you get the creepy ones that are trying to talk to them, like maybe not with a bad intention, but it probably comes across as "get away from me, weirdo."
Yeah.
And so it's kind of getting that balance, isn't it? Of just,
to be honest, you know, you don't have to be too conscious about what should be done or what shouldn't be done. I think if somebody has women, I'm going to say women again, Matt, excuse me for this, but women have a very strong sixth sense. You might have heard that before, and they can feel stuff, even if nothing's even if nothing been said or done. They can kind of pick, as you say, the vibes of the other person, and same go for men as well. You know, people who are well practiced at you know getting their senses are sharp, and then they can actually feel what sort of people are around them. So making women safe. I think what men can do, how men, and we cannot make the change without men's contribution. That's a fact. You know, women can shout, women empowerment, women's safety, equal pay rights, whatnot. I totally and truly believe that it's not going to change unless men become a part of the equation as well. They already are, right? We can't, if we keep denying it, it's not going to happen. That's everybody's loss.
I think that's a really good point, because I think again, I'm no expert on the historical sequence of feminism, but, you know, I think in the early days, most men viewed feminists as the enemy, even though we're not anti-female, because it's like they're attacking. But I think now it's a lot more healthier, because actually feminism is something that we can all work together on, and it creates a much better society in my viewpoint. And I'm still, this may not be popular, but I'm still very much of the school that women be women, but not like, you know, with, you know, traditional roles or anything, but I like that feminine side, right? And men be men, you know, grow beards, guys, grow beards, okay? And, I'm joking, by the way, but you know, I think that is really cool, and that interplay is kind of what we're designed for. And I know that can look different in certain circumstances as well.
Yeah, but women are women, Matt. Why do they need to become like men? Or why do men should be like women? We're fine the way we are, right? God made us the best version of ourselves in all ways. So you know, it's our job to accept it. We should accept it. Why not? And it's okay, you know, housewives as well, people who live in the traditional setups. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it works for them. You know, as long as a couple's happy, being the man going out to earn the money, bringing money back, you know, looking after the financial stuff, and woman in the house looking after. What's wrong with that setup? Nothing at all. As long as someone's happy.
Exactly. And I really do, you know, recommend that everybody, male and female, I read it about 20 years ago, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I think it's John Gray.
I can't remember the name. I read it years and years ago as well myself.
Yeah, that is an eye-opener. I mean, it's, you know, for people that have done a lot of stuff, if you haven't read that book, it's a real eye-opener, because it really helps us, I think, to communicate at a better level And one thing I've noticed in my own relationships, not necessarily personal relationships, but with sort of cousins and friends and stuff, is that we have two basic modes as human beings. So we have our normal, everyday, working, living mode, and then we have our stress mode. And the biggest killer in the West is stress, right?
Yeah.
Probably in India now, it's probably the biggest killer as well. Well, maybe sugar would be, but I don't know. But the stress mode is very, very different. And a lot of the issues, and we're not talking about violence necessarily here, but we're talking about the disconnect between male and female, or the sort of the argument potential happens when one or both of us are in stress mode. And then we're talking, Chinese and Russian to each other, right? And I think that book really has helped me. I mean, I read it might have been 25 years ago when it first came out. And it was just such an eye-opener, because that really helps you to kind of start to build some emotional intelligence around, this person's really stressed. I'm highly testosterone. She's highly estrogen. We're probably talking different languages right now. It might be a good idea for me to go for a drive in the car and put some classical music on, right? Instead of getting into the issue, which could, whatever, not be useful. You've read that book, right, Ritu?
I have, ages. I was a student still when I'm very young, when I read it ages ago.
Okay.
So I
sorry. Sorry, no, do carry on first, because I want to hear from you.
Now, I was just saying that I do love that book. I absolutely was amazed. And I think that contributed as well. Anything you read, anything you hear, listen to, any conversations you've had, they never go to waste. They leave something in you to help you grow. So I definitely believe that was one step forward with that book.
Okay. So you are a Punjabi female, right? So I'm going to take you back to your culture a little bit, just a little bit, because we like to have some fun here. Okay? And I've just totally labelled you, haven't I? You are a Punjabi female. It's really bad, but I do like to have fun, right? So I know you've got two daughters, but let's just say you've got a nephew. He's like, what age do kids get married these days? Like 30, 31, 33?
Yeah, 30, let's say, on average, 30.
Around 30, right?
Yeah.
So you got a nephew. He's 30, let's say. He's going to get engaged, going to get married. What would be, with all the stuff that we've just spoken about, what would you're going to sit him down and give him some advice. Like, what would your advice be? Drawing from your own experience, drawing from everything you've seen with all your clients and stuff you've worked with. What would your kind of advice be to that young man who may not be thinking about any of this?
It's got nothing to do. No, that's fine. It's not got nothing to do with being a Punjabi. It applies to everyone.
Absolutely.
So what I'd say to this young man is that be open, right?
Okay.
Try not to go into a relationship with boundaries in your head that I'm going to be like this and she's going to be like that and this is what's going to happen, because life, as we've just discussed, is ever evolving.
Right.
Things are going to happen. You're going to find some sides of her that you didn't know, even if you knew her prior to the wedding. You're going to see her more now. You're going to live with her. You're going to see all the bad and the ugly sides of her that probably were hidden before this. So be accepting, but also be careful, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that women are all golden, Matt. They're not. Some women
can. We know that. We're not dumb, right?
Some women can be very manipulative, like some men can be, right? So you've got to be fair. And as much as I'd like to protect that young girl while she comes into a new household, at the same time, I'd like to protect my nephew as well, and tell him that be careful. Use your intellect while you're in. Use your emotion. Absolutely, use your emotion, but use your intellect as well while you head into your new marriage. So being open is a great start, I believe.
No, I think that's really wonderful, being open. And I wonder if we've got it all wrong when we kind of divided into men and women. We should just be relating to each other as human beings. I don't know. Does that make sense? Or
it does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, coming back to the question that you asked before about what can we do, what can
Mhm,
men do to help? Men, like you're a father yourself of two daughters, two young, beautiful daughters,
mhm.
man, whatever you're doing now is leaving an imprint on them.
I have
How
got a son
you
as
are.
well. Yeah.
Sorry?
Just so the viewers know, I've got a son as well.
You've
So
got a son as well. We're here, we're discussing men
I
as,
know.
for women. So you are the role model, right? So you're modeling, for them, you're the role model and you're modeling how life should be.
Mhm.
I grew up seeing men being the dominating part of the household and business and the society and being more verbal and being more, controlling and the rest of it. So
Mhm.
that was my normal to start off with.
Yeah.
So the first model that you give children in your household, your boy as well, what he's seen, he'd go on to be like that
Yeah.
more more than likely.
Mhm, mhm,
Uh, of course, he can find himself, discover himself something to be something different later and decide to implement that model.
mhm.
But I think with the initial one, it's really important, especially with women that are living with abusive partners. This is what I like to say, that when you allow that to continue, in
Mhm,
any capacity, you are modeling it for your children. You're telling your daughters that this is how you've got to be when you grow up. It's okay to live like this.
mhm,
And you're
mhm.
telling your boys that this is how you treat your wife. It's
Yeah.
all unacceptable.
Yeah.
So it's taking, again, coming back to taking personal responsibility. Each one of us has got a part to play. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what work you do, doesn't matter, wherever you are, you have a responsibility. And if
Absolutely.
you're being responsible, nobody feels threatened, nobody, gets hurt. It's all good. I'm talking ideal world here, but in my head, that's what I have.
I'm even hearing a little bit of the Birmingham accent coming out as well. A
Yeah,
little bit, yeah. Because you haven't got a broad one, but it comes a little
it
bit.
does. People actually recognize that, they can identify me with Birmingham these days.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, people can pick
Yeah, you
that.
can hear it in the back of the voice, right? So that's really good. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as you were speaking there, I kind of just had this sense of it comes back down to self-love, self-esteem, to
Absolutely.
create those boundaries that my self-respect is not going to allow you to speak to me in that way. My self-respect is not going to allow you to treat me that way. It comes back to self-love, doesn't it? I think, and self-esteem. And I just want to take my hat off to you again, Ritu, because I think you're doing with Kaushalya UK, which we'd like to talk about a little bit. I think you're doing a wonderful job from what I see, of really building up a lot of women who've been through, this journey of abuse and domestic violence, unfortunately, really helping them to find themselves again and to build up their confidence, build up their self-esteem, and build up their self-love so that then they can go out and create those boundaries and those principles and standards that will attract, if they want the right partner, to them, or if not, just to live their life happily and fulfilled. So hats off to you. Would you like to tell the viewers about Kaushalya UK? When we put the YouTube video up next week, we'll have all the links there for everyone and stuff. But I mean, I think, it'd be really good to talk, how did that start? I know it's very personal to you, even the name of the organization. So could we get a sense of that? Would that be okay?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sure. Why not? So Kushalya Devi was my paternal grandmother's name,
Okay.
and she was a wonderful, loving, very affectionate mom. She was the
Mhm.
mother hen, really. So my granddad passed away when she was only 32, Matt.
Oh, wow.
Only 32, and she had seven young children to bring up because in those times,
They
women
got
used to,
married early.
girls used to get married really early.
Yeah.
So my dad, being the eldest son, was only 16, and the youngest one was only 2.5 years old, my uncle.
Wow.
So my grandmother went through a whole lot of series of stuff to
Hmm.
be able to bring her children up and to support them throughout. And I have seen her, how strong she was, how resilient she was, how she stood her ground,
Mm.
very graceful, very
Yeah.
honorable, very respectful. And in those times, there was no concept of remarriage. If somebody doesn't know,
Right.
India was
Yeah. Of course.
advanced.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
never,
Yeah.
yeah. Even if the girl's 32, we don't talk about, getting remarried. Not
That's
at
all.
all.
Yeah.
Not at
Yeah.
So because so when I went through my journey, and when I hit 32, Matt, I realized, because she lived all her life in, colorless clothing, white clothing.
Really.
That's the
Yeah.
norm. Yeah. All her dupattas, which is a long scarf that
Yeah.
goes on, they were all white, always.
So she lived as a widow, like.
She lived as a widow
Yeah.
all her life. And when I hit 32 myself, I realized that, just giving up color is such a huge sacrifice. Forget everything else you went through.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Forget you had the responsibility of your 7 children. Forget that there was nobody to support you.
Mm-hmm.
Forget that, you become just on your own, like,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Mhm.
no support. And I realized when I was 32 that, oh my God, what a decision to be made at 32. No color for the rest of my life. And that kind of woke me up. But I was still going through stuff then. And then when I came out the other end of my comfort zone, my bubble, I realized I wanted to do something to contribute towards the change that I so badly want to happen in the world. I want nobody to see women as a second class citizen. I don't want anybody to think of women any less because of our gender.
Yeah.
Yes, inheritance as well, Matt. You've read my story, so you know the story. But inheritance wise as well, in the past, people used to give all their wealth to their sons,
Yeah.
and girls were not even acknowledged,
Mm-hmm.
right? So culturally, we did not have a home, because our parents' home became our brother's home, and the husband's home is his home,
Yeah.
and then the woman kind of is a ping pong ball. We
Yeah.
don't belong anywhere.
But even the gold tradition, I don't know about Punjab, but in Goa, even the gold, it will be passed, like the grandmother's gold will be passed to the sons' wives, not the daughters.
It's the same. It's
Same, yeah.
absolutely the same up north as well. It's absolutely, and I'll be, Punjabis are particularly bad at that, right?
Okay.
If I can just say that, because that's what my first-hand experience is, and I used to think it's only a Punjabi problem, but it's not.
No, no.
Okay, so women did not even have a home. We could
Mm-hmm.
not even say that this is, and I felt homeless for the first 37, 38 years of my life, because
Really?
the house that I had left was my parents' home that happened to become my brother's home. And the home that I came to was my husband's home and his brother's home, but
Yeah.
not mine.
Yeah.
Right. So I had this feeling of no belonging anywhere. And with the rest of the things happening and whatnot, it became kind of quite, And then when I was a bit in my senses and I started realizing there was so much anger and there was so much hurt, that it had to be channelized. And it had to be channelized in a way that could create something better.
Right.
So Chile
Right.
UK happened, and I named it after my grandmother to honor her. But it happened because I realized that women are being treated just as, nobody, because of the gender, which is silly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, give the inheritance to the brother, but if the girl child is capable, consider her. Consider giving her one of your businesses.
Yeah.
Why is it that the son should inherit everything because he's a son? Does that even make any sense? Has he got the intellect? Has he got the aptitude to handle that? If
Mhm.
your daughter's more intelligent, uh, it's such a complex thing to talk about, Matt, and it's got so many
It is.
layers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Very layered, and it's been layered into the culture. We're just talking India for a moment, for thousands and thousands of years. And it goes back to the times where, people were fighting different villages, and it was all about the family name and keep it with the son, and,
we're
the
still in
gold
that mentality,
given away and
unfortunately.
all.
We're in 2021. We're still continuing with the same mentality. And you know what?
Right.
Now that I'm relaunching my book, as you mentioned in the start, I'm going to call it Rich Man's Rich Daughter.
I
Okay.
love that, because I've got to admit, the book is brilliant. I'm sure I'm going to read it again. I mean, I've read it 3 times. It is so rich in your journey. But the title, yeah, just poor daughter. For me, there's a little bit of disconnect there. So
I know. I
I
can
think I
imagine.
mentioned that to you once, but
I can imagine that. And it's like as if making a statement that I'm a poor daughter.
yeah,
I had that mentality, I'll have to admit that, for a very long time. But now that I'm at the other end, and I have shared my journey from being a poor daughter to being a rich daughter, and how, somebody else who's reading it can apply the same things and can, hopefully, God willing, achieve that as well. So I call it rich man's rich daughter now. I refuse to be, related to this title anymore. I'm not poor in any sense. I had to tap into my own resilience and to come out of
Love it. Yeah.
all the adversities and the mental blocks that I had and the emotional blockages that I had, and this happened. But again, once you are committed to your growth, no matter where you are, no matter what circumstances you're at, I am of belief that you can do this. Once you start to believe that you deserve it, it will come to you.
And this, from what I've seen, Ritu, is the key message of yours in pretty much everything you're doing with the women, but all the events you're doing with Kaushalya.org. I mean, you do a lot of events for women, right? In the Midlands mainly, but I know elsewhere as well. And they seem to have a lot of fun on these events, but they seem to grow and start to create their own projects as well. So you're really a sort of enabler, an initiator. You're really an inspirer to these women who kind of find themselves. Is that okay to say that?
Absolutely. You know what? The fun element is there, Matt, because the nature of the work that we do is really serious, and we mean it, right? We totally mean that.
Yeah.
But we have to have that fun element, because when we learn in the fun way, something kind of clicks, and you've had fun, you've enjoyed doing something. So you want to do more of that. And once you find that kind of element in whatever you're trying to grow into, it becomes addictive. I am totally addicted to this whole stuff that I'm doing. I'm totally committed, dedicated. And when I see, like you've said, that change happens, and when people approach me and say, oh, I would like to do that, I am open to sharing my knowledge, my learnings, my understanding with anyone who'd want to grow. That's what we're about. That's what Kaushalya UK is about.
And I just want to mention for the viewers that it's a very diverse organisation. So, I've been invited to speak very briefly on a couple of the calls that you've done. And I mean, it's a very diverse group. I mean, you have a lot of people from different ethnic backgrounds, different ages. I saw some young people, some older people. So you've done a really good job, I think, on the diversity side of things, which is cool.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yeah, and the book as well that we brought out this year in July, The New Woman. We've got 33 women from across 5 continents, and they're all ethnicities, all cultural, social, religious backgrounds. Yeah. And I am truly, really proud and humbled at the same time that we've been able to bring that to life.
Wonderful.
So diversity and inclusion is one of the biggest values that we nurture here at Kaushalya UK. It's a women's organization, but it's for all women. It's not an Asian or Indian organization. It's for all women, and men are welcome as well, Matt, because we do have a ongoing project called Men.
We're not allowed to come to your parties, but we can.
You can't come to our parties, sorry.
We're not allowed to come to your parties, right?
For now. Yeah, for now.
I might have to be a security guard once, so I think that would be cool. But so what's the next step for Kaushalya.org? Because you've done really well UK-wide. I notice at the moment you're getting a lot of media attention. You've been in Marathi newspapers, Urdu newspapers yesterday, I think, and you're hitting the headlines globally. So what are the next steps if you are allowed to reveal them? What's the next sort of venture?
It would be great I'm not going to say if. It would be great when we become known worldwide for the work that we do and the values that we stand for. And not just be known, but be able to make contribution around the world, everywhere. So there are things happening, Matt, right now. Of course, I'm based in Birmingham, West Midlands. So we are running a DV First Aiders project starting next year, which is handpicked community people who are bilingual, and we are training them through a very professional and highly trained 2 professionals who are psychotherapists and DV experts to educate our trainees on how they can pick signs of DV and how they can approach people, how they can help them, etc. And they are bilingual for a reason. right? And it's not just Asian, as I said, it's open to everyone. So we're starting that project, but also we are connecting with other organizations across the world to initiate projects where we can make contribution to the projects across the borders. So
Nice.
that's happening as well.
Okay, that's really cool. Very, very cool indeed. And last few minutes, final question is, what advice would you give to someone who's watching this, who's maybe a little bit stuck? Maybe the pandemic's hit them, maybe they've gone through some change, they're a little bit stuck, and they're at that point where you were many years ago, where they've just got to recreate, right? What advice would you give to that person, male, female? You know, what would you say to that person?
Anyone feeling stuck and feeling frustrated with the stuck situation, do not forget to tell yourself that you can and you will. That is one thing, Matt, that keeps us going. Nothing can defeat you unless you defeat yourself.
Yeah.
Nothing can break you unless you decide you can't go on any further. So
Yeah.
I'd say every morning when you wake up, look into the mirror, look into your own eyes and affirm, tell yourself, I can and I will. I've done it in the past. No matter where you are, I know you've had something to vouch for. There's some achievements that you've had that nobody thought you could ever get to.
Exactly.
Whatever you've achieved, that's great. Wherever you start, it's a great start. Do not give up. Believe in yourself. Things happen, things change. I was at the lowest of the low points twice in my life. I was extremely suicidal. Once I made an attempt as well. And I'm so grateful. But the universe had its plans for me. The universe was not letting me go anywhere unless I had shouldered my responsibilities. This is the task that's been handed to me. I'm delivering it. You've got something as well that you meant to deliver. Wait for it and just keep going. Every morning when you wake up, look into your eyes, tell yourself, I am going to make through this. I can and I will.
Wonderful. Ritu Sharma, thank you very much indeed. Really, really appreciate you. And I'm really looking forward to getting this out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Wow. I mean, what a story. What a journey. I'm actually speechless. I've read the book 3 times. I know Ritu very well, but, every time we hear from her, we just draw, these deep riches, these deep jewels and principles which have been hidden in her journey and which are redefining themselves in her purpose and her destiny. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do follow Ritu, see the links below, and get connected with the Kaushalya.org and get the book, especially the new one in January that's coming out. My name is Matt W.L. Nerona. My time is up, and I really, really want to thank you for your